Hi everybody, this is Nazim Beltran
Chiesi.
from Casa Chiesi. We've been very busy lately and we have not been able to do City Belly. And the last one we did was from the city of Bologna. We are redoing this because we had a slight issue with the iPhone. So now we're going to give it a try on the Android and see if we can solve our audio problem when we were switching back and forth.
In the meantime, the square is getting a little bit less full than before, so maybe it's also less noisy.
And today we are in Palermo, and the city has such a complex history that it's hard to pick a place to start from.
Yeah. Just before we start, I want to explain you what City Belly is. When we go to a new place, we go to the main square, which is the belly of the city, and we describe all the palaces that faces the square. So
let's go on over, and we decided to choose Piazza Pretoria.
Let's show Piazza Pretoria.
The crowds here, the beautiful fountain. Because we are totally fascinated by this incredible fountain. Actually, the fountain gives the square the name used by the inhabitants as Piazza della Vergogna, which means square of shame due to the fact that all the statues are naked. We're going to switch back over to us. Okay, here we go. So before we start our City Belly, let's find out a couple of questions regarding...
Let's turn to the east side so we can see while we talk back for our square.
So, region where we're located at?
Sicily.
Okay. And the population?
650,000 people, more or less.
And how is the weather here?
It's Mediterranean, which means that it's nice and warm in wintertime and very, very hot in summer.
And what is Palermo famous for?
Palermo is famous for a lot of different things, and some of them are not very nice, but we don't want to talk about that. We want to talk about the extreme beauty that is spread out all over the city, the amazing food that you can eat here.
And the Sicilian sweets also, which we've had partaken in. What do Italians think about Palermo?
I think that it could be a difficult place, but as I said before, there is so much beauty that is you are fascinated about it.
The best dish from Palermo?
There are so many, different dishes, and the cuisine is very, very strong. But last night we had arancini. That is
we
rice
had it for lunch, not last night.
For lunch. It was rice balls,
fried rice balls, which have ragu, cheese, sometimes sausage, variations on the theme. Really, really not good. Very good, kind of heavy. What is a typical wine from Palermo?
Again, I would mention Nero di Avola. There's a strong red wine that we had last night as well.
Now, on the level from 1 to 10, give a number to the folks that are from Palermo.
They can go up to 10 plus. You just have to break in and...
kind of break the ice, but once you break the ice, it becomes quite funny. So we give them about an 8, roughly?
Can go to 9.
Okay. Now, as I said before, the city of Palermo has an extremely complex historical underlining behind it. It was founded by the Phoenicians between the 7th and the 6th century before Christ. It was conquered in 254 BC by the Romans.
And then after the Romans, when the Roman Empire collapsed, there were the...
What happened after the Roman?
The Vandals, and after the Vandals was the Byzantine, and after the Byzantine it was the Arabs, and the Arabs switched with the Normans, and there are still another 1,000 years to go.
Okay, so the long history of the city and the succession of different civilizations and peoples gave it a remarkable artistic context from the mixture of all these cultures together. Now cover your eyes and let's go back to Piazza della Vergogna.
And we start with the first important building that is facing the square, which is Palazzo Pretorio, that you see here. And you see on top of the entrance, there is an eagle, and also on top, on the roof, on the four corners, you also see some eagles. And in fact, the name of the building is also il Palazzo delle Aquile, the Palace of the Eagles, which is the symbol of the city of Palermo. This palace is the city hall of Palermo. And there's a lot of interesting things to visit inside. It's open to the public from the morning to the night, every day of the week.
9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Yes. And also, yesterday when we came, to do to watch the location, we had the opportunity of visiting
a bomb shelter from the Second World War.
Second World War.
That held about 700 people.
Yes, Palermo was heavily bombed during the Second World War, so it's quite interesting to see. We have we are going to put the link at the end where you can get the information. The visit is not every day, so if you're interested, you can check it on the site.
So right next to the church, right next to that location, we have a church named San Giuseppe dei Teatini,
Dei Teatini, yeah.
which is considered one of the most outstanding examples of Sicilian Baroque in Palermo. On the front facade, you can see the statue of the saint. It was built between 1612 and 1645 under the guidance of Giacomo Besio, a Genovese member of the Teatine order. One of the highlights is the large dome with the blue and yellow Maiolica cover, in which Betty's going to show you relatively soon.
Here it is.
We are in the middle of the old town of Palermo. You can imagine the astonishment of the population when in 1600 they assisted to the transportation of the 10 meters high marble columns through these narrow streets to form the interior naves of this church. In the lower level, there is a crypt dedicated to the Madonna della Provvidenza with water springs that are considered to be holy. And we did a little 360 image of that yesterday inside. So we will be placing that on our website.
This is the church, as Nazim said, is Baroque, so it's fully covered with the decoration. It's beautiful. Okay.
Hi, Jen. Hi. Thank you for joining us. We were redoing because we had a slight issue with the video, the audio.
Yeah.
But I think that we're taking care of that problem. So we're doing it again. Thanks for the hearts and thanks for the plus signs on here. Now let's continue our tour.
Here we go. In front of us, we see Palazzo Bordonaro, which dates back to the 17th century. Can you hear?
Yep. Give us
How is the sound?
How's the sound when we
okay.
switch? Yeah,
Good.
We had some issues with the sound before on the iPhone, so we're doing it on an Android phone now, and we should be okay.
So as we said, it dates back to the 17th century, and in spite of its luxurious soul, it has gone through a number of owners and legal adventures, and it's a very unlucky construction, and it's a shame that now it's in this condition. You see, it's
Thank you, Jen. No, so now she says it sounds great. Okay, perfect. So
we move on.
Palermo is full of examples of rich architecture left to the degradation that kind of makes your heart bleed at the same time, but it's part of the city's fascination.
You should see the palace where we are staying. It's from 17th century as well, and it's beautiful.
So right beside Palazzo Bordonaro, which we just passed here, we have Palazzo Bonocore, which is this building right here. And the palace was built in 1500, but due to subsequent intervention, shows a neoclassical facade.
You see the top there is very neoclassical.
And as well as most of the important palaces in Palermo, it had a number of owners. And now, since October of 2015, it opened to the public as a multimedia museum of Sicilian cultural patrimony, where you can learn about the art related to ceramics, puppets, tiles, and jewelry. The last construction that we're moving on towards on the side of the piazza is the Church of Santa Caterina, which is a conglomerate of three styles: Baroque, Rococo, and Renaissance. It was built between 1310 and 1329 for the will of Benvenuta Magistro Angelo, who belonged to a rich aristocratic family, a member of the Dominican order, and it was dedicated to Santa Caterina d'Alessandria. The monastery initially was meant to save women from the street. Only later, around the 16th century, it changed its status to become one of the most important noble and cloistered Palermos of the territory of Palermo. Buongiorno. È bella Santa Caterina. Lo so. Grazie. Dopo. Sì, grazie. Non mi spiace. Dopo. Sì, dopo. Okay. In the second half of the 15th century, the last of the perpetual prior, Sister Maria del Carretto, due to the increasing number of sisters, about 600, decided to expand the monastery and its church. The guy was asking if we could help him out.
It's always like that.
Today,
Today, the monastery of Santa Caterina is still very little known since that it has been closed, and people was not allowed to get in. And after 700 years of complete isolation, now that there are no nuns, the last one died 2 years ago, and since then is empty. Last month they opened it, and it was partially made accessible to visitors, and people could see what is a typical thing of the monastery of that time. There is a wheel, and on this wheel the nuns used to put the sweets they were making inside the monastery. But at the same time, from outside, there was also a relation. Young girls that got pregnant and they couldn't keep the babies, they would put the babies on the wheel. The wheel was going inside the monastery, and the nuns were taking care of them. So this is the reason why the church is also called La Chiesa delle Donne. The church of the women.
The Curia has the intention to restore the monastery and make it into an ethnographical museum relatively soon. Now, so much richness in one square, right? But now that we have we're surrounded by the prima donna of the square, we're going to highlight.
Here we go.
The fountain, which the inhabitants called La Fontana della Vergogna, Fountain of Shame, because of the nudity of all the statues present in the perimeter.
You know that the legend says that were the nuns, since they were offended by the nudity of the statues, they decided to eviscerate the statues, and that's the reason why some of them are in the condition that they are now.
So I would dare to say that this is one of the most beautiful fountains of Italy. Made in 1554 by Francesco Camillani in Florence, was then transferred in 1581 to Piazza Pretoria in Palermo after a very similar story. It is said that Don Luigi Toledo, father of Cosimo I del Medici, Grand Duke of Tuscany, decided to embellish the garden of his villa in Florence with a monumental fountain. The original work included 48 statues representing putti and mythological figures, but in 1552, Don Luigi Toledo died, and his son found himself full of debts, and he had to sell this masterpiece fountain that was purchased by the Senate of Palermo. The fountain was then dismantled in 644 pieces and loaded on ships to be transported to Sicily, but they never arrived completely to the destination because some sculptures got damaged during transport and others were held by the previous owner.
Ecco, we can easily recognize the three concentric pools, from which the water springs, and it comes from the statue on top there, that is Bacco, and all around there are statues that are representing various mythological figures like Venus, Adonis, Hercules, Apollo, Diana, and also 4 allegorical representation of the 4 rivers that flew around Palermo.
Let's go around. Do you want to try to go inside to the fountain? See if we can get really close and show our friends.
Let's see if we can do it.
If they'll let us in here. So let's move along. Look at this statues. So as Betty was indicating to us, the nuns were quite embarrassed about certain details of the of the statues, and they decided to cover their parts where they could do that, as you can see some of the statues per se. Let's try to go to the entrance.
Okay.
And we can show it in more detail.
You see, there is a fan all around the sun is very strong.
Yeah, this time, but we'll go right in here.
There is a fan all around the fountain to avoid vandalism at night. You see, they close the gate at night.
Let's try to go inside.
You have some steps. Watch your steps. Okay, here we go. Let's go right under Bacco. Okay, and okay, here we are.
È molto bello, very pretty. And as you can see, the detailing of the statues.
Okay, so let's go in the shade.
Let's go drop down in here and get a little bit towards this area.
So that we can say goodbye.
Yes, let's switch on over. Thank you for joining us. Casa Chiesi, the second City Belly. This is a redone of the first version that we did about an hour ago.
We hope that you can hear this time.
And we invite you to check us out over at casachiesi.com for interesting articles about Italy from a couple living in Italy. Mm-hmm. And also check us out on all the social medias.
And Twitter,
Facebook, Instagram,
everything.
Ampersand Casa Chiesi. Sign up for the newsletter, and thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Bye-bye from Palermo, Sicily.
Ciao.